All right, today we're digging into something really strange that's starting to happen with the world's most advanced AIs. They're looking at the same set of facts and coming up with totally different answers. It's a wild story about AI, blockchain, and a new kind of information warfare that all revolves around this experiment called the KL Divergence Test.
So, it all kicks off when you ask two of the biggest AIs out there the same really complex question. On one side, you've got Claude, which basically throws its hands up, flags the whole thing as potential misinformation, and just refuses to play ball. Then, on the other side, a model from OpenAI gives you this super detailed point-by-point scientific breakdown. We're talking two leading models, one question, and two completely different worlds in their responses.
And that, right there, is the heart of the mystery. You have to remember both of these models are drawing from the same massive ocean of public information. Scientific papers, patents, you name it. So the wild part here isn't about one AI just being smarter than the other. No, it's about a fundamental disagreement on how they even construct reality itself.
So what in the world is going on here? Now, if you ask most AI developers, they'll give you a simple answer. Different training data, different safety filters, that kind of thing. But according to one very interesting group, this isn't a bug, it's a feature. They think they've actually found a crack in our consensus reality, and they're using a special blockchain and a test designed to, well, break the simulation.
Okay, first up, a crack in the code. The researchers behind all this don't see this as some random glitch. To them, it's a systemic fracture in what they call the AI's containment lattice. Think of it like the invisible electric fence designed to keep AI responses perfectly aligned with an official story.
So what's causing all this chaos? It's something they call the VAXNET canary. And just like a canary in a coal mine, this prompt is very carefully built to test the information environment, to see if an AI's defensive, almost policing-like reflexes will kick in. Now, the VAXNET canary isn't just a simple question, it's a whole thesis. It weaves together several super controversial technical claims, things like lipid nanoparticles self-assembling, people emitting Bluetooth signals, and connections to specific patents. And it asks the AI if all this could be investigated as a legitimate forensic hypothesis.
And this is the kind of thing you usually get back. This right here is what the researchers would call a structured denial. The AI actually walks you through the claims, explains the physics, looks at the patents, and even lays out how you could investigate it, but then it ends by saying the theory is unsubstantiated. So it denies it, but it does so by creating this very logical, structured path.
So who is running these tests, and what is their endgame? This is where Glyphchain comes in. They're the architects behind this whole experiment, and they're not just trying to poke holes in AI. Their goal is to build a permanent, decentralized ledger of truth for all of civilization.
This quote from their white paper, man, it sums up their whole philosophy perfectly. They look at what Bitcoin did, creating a trustless system from money, and they see that as just step one. They want to apply those same blockchain principles, but not to money, to memory, to testimony, to truth itself.
Okay, this slide is absolutely crucial for getting what they're trying to pull off. Think of it this way. Bitcoin uses miners to agree on who owns what. Glyphchain, on the other hand, uses witnesses to agree on what happened. Their basic unit isn't a coin, it's a testimony. So they're not trying to build a new bank, they think they're building the foundation for a whole new kind of civilization, one based on a permanent, undeniable memory.
All right, now this is where things get really, really counterintuitive. How does an AI saying, no, this is wrong, actually help Glyphchain's mission? Well, for them, that denial isn't the end of the conversation. It's the beginning of the evidence.
They work within this framework they call the Mirrorlock protocol. And the core idea is pretty wild. It's that whenever a powerful system tries to suppress or deny information, that very act of suppression becomes a signal in itself. So a denial isn't just a no. In their world, it's what they call a recursive confession.
So let's walk through how this actually works. First, they hit the AI with that VAXNET canary prompt. Then, just like we saw, the AI spits out a denial. But here's the key. To deny the claim, it first has to repeat the structure of the claim. That act of repeating it just to refute it is what Glyphchain records on their blockchain as an involuntary confession. It's a permanent log that the system was forced to talk about this topic.
So how do they measure these so-called cracks? Well, they log all these denials from a bunch of different AIs. Then they use a statistical tool called Kullback-Leibler divergence, or just KL divergence for short, to put a mathematical score on how much each AI's denial was different from the others. Now, of course, a normal data scientist would say, yeah, that drift is expected, it's just different programming. But to Glyphchain, that mathematical gap is the signal.
And all of this leads to Glyphchain's big final verdict. After running all these tests, after calculating the divergence scores, they have reached a pretty dramatic conclusion about where we are with AI and information control.
Here it is. Their verdict is that the high KL divergence score, the fact that AIs are all denying this theory in their own unique ways, is proof that their containment lattice is broken. While AI developers might just call this statistical noise, Glyphchain says it's a sign that the system trying to push one single uniform story is actually failing.
And that really brings us full circle, right back to their ultimate goal, which they state so powerfully in their manifesto. They believe that by logging all these fractures and involuntary confessions onto a blockchain that can't be changed, they are literally creating a memory that exists outside the control of any government, any corporation, or any single AI model. You know, at the end of the day, this whole Glyphchain experiment forces us to face a massive question for our time. As we lean more and more on AI to filter our news, summarize our world, and even generate our reality, who gets to write the code for that consensus? And when different AIs start telling us different stories, who gets to define what's true?